Welcome one and all to the Cine Geeks podcast where movies, TV, and all things geek collide. This is Roy, joined by the one and only my lovely co-host Angela.
Hello everyone once again. Welcome to our Friday habit here at the Cine Geeks podcast.
Yes, hello again and thank you. First off, for choosing to join us once again for our weekly discussion of new movies, TV shows, or anything geek under the sun. Now, hashtag Barbenheimer is upon us, and we are so excited to talk about the two movies that are coming out this week. So that would be Barbie by Greta Gerwig and Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan.
But before that, we want to invite everyone to join in on the Cine Geeks conversation. Like and follow our Facebook page as well as our Instagram, and we're also on Threads. We'd love to hear from you about what you think about the movies and TV shows we talk about here at Cine Geeks.
And also, as we promised, we are also going to be announcing the winner of our Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 contest from last episode. So please stay tuned for the results at the end of this episode.
Yes.
Okay? Now, by the way, we would just like to let everyone know na this episode is going to be spoiler-filled. Kasi since we're going on a deep dive of these two very awesome movies, what we suggest is that you go and watch the movies first.
Yeah,
So-
and then come back.
Yes, come back and then listen to what we thought of the movies after you've seen them. Kung kaya, why not go on a double feature as well?
Like we did.
Our suggestion is you watch Oppenheimer first. Okay? And then, pang finale nyo yung Barbie. Pero any which way you want to watch it, if you want to watch the other way around, it's fine as well. Alright, so without any further ado, let's go to our first movie, which is again Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan. And this movie is biopic of J. Robert Oppenheimer, considered to be the father of the atomic bomb.
Yes.
And more specifically, siya yung head ng Manhattan Project,
Yes.
which developed the atomic bomb during the Second World War.
Yeah.
And also, it's important to note na this film is based on the book American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin.
Yeah.
So, Nolan is solely credited as the writer of this as well as the director. So, inadapt niya from a biographical book or novel.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first off, we're gonna go ahead with what we liked about the movie.
Yeah.
Ange, can you please tell us what you liked about the movie right off?
So, Christopher Nolan wrote this character with so much delicateness, especially this is a very serious figure in history. Just like the book, American Prometheus. Prometheus, by the way, is a Greek mythological character who stole fire from Olympus, from the gods, and gave it to man. Parang I can't help but think of this phrase na with great power comes great responsibility. Sorry for the
Sige.
Marvel reference, pero it's true eh. He is a scientific genius na yung knowledge niya is extreme power. Power to destroy worlds,
Oo.
literally.
Yes,
And how responsible was he given that kind of power?
that's true.
Kasi ang dami niyang mental gymnastics to justify doing it.
Oo.
Kahit ang daming mga taong nagwa-warn sa kanya na, are you sure you wanna do this? Are you sure you want this to exist in the world? Do you really trust humanity to handle this power with discretion in the face of war pa?
Oo.
Even some of his scientists dun sa team niya questions that. There is a very big question of morality.
Oo.
Pero yun na nga this biopic really showed yung morality niya both professionally and in his personal life.
Meron siyang tendency to compartmentalize his morality. May mga times na parang ang lalabas is justified siya dun sa mga kalokohang ginagawa niya. Example natin in the movie. Na sasabihin niya na parang gustong-gusto niya laging ina-absolve yung sarili niya ng moral consequences ng lahat ng mga power trip moves na ginagawa niya.
Yes.
Kasi in the movie, Oppenheimer is portrayed as a very meek person. Hindi siya sobrang huge personality na commands a room eh.
He's not loud.
He's not a loud person. Pero underneath that not loud exterior, sobrang merong kumukulo eh.
There's a quiet arrogance.
Yes. And maybe that is fueled by knowledge na he is one of the few theoretical physicists at that time in the United States.
Yes.
Na parang meron siyang yabang na nararamdaman na nag-bleed over. Hindi lang doon sa kanyang academic na existence, pero kahit doon sa kanyang personal life, which is may part doon na pinakita na merong mga tao na nagtatry na i-recruit siya to their ideology.
Yes.
And siya naman, ang gusto niya maging position is gusto niya maging neutral.
Yeah.
While at the same time, saying na parang, I'm for this. I'm for this ideology.
Yes.
Pero he thinks na he's so morally above question or reproach. He thinks he can display neutrality while also exhibiting the characteristics of said ideologies.
That's true. I also noticed that.
No. Yun na parang, halimbawa, nagtatry siyang sumali doon sa isang nagtatry mag-start ng union for teachers.
Yes, yes.
Kung saan siya nagtuturo. Ipapakita na, okay, ano siya, para siyang for the cause siya. And malapit na sana siya maging parang, ang term na ginagamit nila in the movie is card-carrying member. Pero kapag nauungkat na siya ng todo, bigla siya magsasabi na, ay hindi, ano naman naiintindihan ko naman kung ano yung gusto nilang gawin. And tama naman sila, pero hindi naman talaga ako sasali doon. Sinusuportahan ko lang sila. Wala siyang firm moral foundation.
Wala siyang conviction.
Yun, exactly.
He's just drunk in power. He's just hanging that over everybody's head. He wants to control people and their behavior and their actions by holding out on them, by alam mo yun, yung manipulation na yun.
Oo, tama. Tapos, yung sinasabi mong hindi ko naman sabihin na talagang wala siyang conviction, pero siguro pwede nating sabihin na yung conviction niya is only in science. Yun lang. Dun lang sa knowledge niya of theoretical physics. And yung kanyang pagkatao, naka-root doon sa fact na alam niyang matalino siya. Alam niyang walang pwedeng kumwestiyon doon sa knowledge na meron siya. And he tries to lord that over other people, his personal
that's
life.
the right term, yung he's lording over them, even in his relationships.
Even in his professional relationships din, mga kapwa scientists niya.
Yeah.
At parang binubrusko niya,
I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm saying. Nobody should question me and my decisions.
Tama. Yun. And eventually, as the movie goes on, lalabas na yung kanyang ganong science-based foundation, yung conviction niya as a person. Pinapakita din na, yun nga, he functions well when working with science. Especially nung ginagawa na nila yung bomb itself.
It's true naman He really is a brilliant scientist.
Oo.
Only, he knows it so well.
Exactly.
And he lords it over everybody.
Oo. Especially nung ginagawa na yung bomb, na doon naman papasok ulit nga na hindi niya alam kung paano makitao. Kasi eventually, magiging next na parang evolution niya is magiging parang pseudo-politician siya Diba?
That was pointed out in the movie. One of the characters said that to him.
Exactly.
Are you a politician or a physicist?
True. And yung parang gusto niyang sabihin na yung basically my way or the highway. So there's a character in the movie named Edward Teller. And he is the father of the hydrogen bomb. Now, I don't know kung anong creative liberties ang tinik ni Nolan in writing this specific part of the film. Pero ang pinakita was when they were brainstorming how to go about making the weapon, many scientists sided with Oppenheimer in saying na they can try to use either plutonium or uranium-237. Edward Teller had the idea to use hydrogen as the element in question for the bomb, for the weapon. Umabot siya sa punto na na-force na si Teller na parang gusto niyang umalis. Tapos nagkaroon na lang ng parang compromise si Oppenheimer tsaka si Teller na, sige, just go do whatever you want. Just don't be disruptive.
Yes.
Okay?
Just don't question me in front of them.
Yun.
Parang it undermines me.
Yun.
Parang something to that effect.
Ayaw niya. Yun talaga, ayaw niyang may nag-undermine sa kanya in public.
And it turns out that hydrogen bomb is the second generation nuclear weapon design.
So eventually, na-overshadow na din ng H-bomb yung atomic bomb. Too.
He knows Oppenheimer knows na Teller is onto something. Pero he doesn't want to do that. He wants to do his thing.
Oppenheimer was out to protect his legacy. Instead of parang just doing what was needed.
In the pursuit of science.
Oo, yun din pa na ginagawa niyang pillar to hide behind yung science, the concept of science itself, to manipulate and not really coerce, pero to parang steer people and justify telling them to do exactly as he says.
Yes.
Oo. Pero, ending naman is, siya, bumabalik pa rin tayo dun sa yung he's just a shell of a man. Imagining how the universe works. Hindi niya mag-grapple yung moralistic consequences ng mga pinapagawa niya sa iba at yung mga decisions na ginagawa niya. And ang nangyari was, everybody was so happy that the test was successful. And eventually naman, pinakita naman na happy siya after everybody emerged from their protective bunkers. Pero during the moment of explosion, parang nakita ko doon sa sequence na para siyang merong, oh shit, what have I done? No, na para siyang
faced with his creation.
Oo.
Parang that blinding light suddenly shook him to the core. Na parang, oh my God, the repercussions of this. Am I ready to live with the consequences of what I have created?
Exactly. Tapos it just snowballs from there. Actually, nakakatawa nga sa kanya, di ba usually when we see movies, 3 acts, di ba? This feels like a 4-act movie. And the 3rd act is the test itself. Yung pag-explode na nung bomb na ginawa nila. After the bomb explodes, during the test, parang ang naramdaman ko, doon na biglang bumilis ulit yung kwento.
Yes.
Kasi doon na natin nakikita yung consequences nung kanyang legacy, nung kanyang success nung kanyang experiment. Kasi eventually after that, sinasama na siya ng US government sa War Department meetings. 'Di ba? Na hindi naman siya directly pinapili kung saan gagamitin yung bomb. Kasi at that point, it was, just brief background. Yung bomb itself was supposed to be used against Nazi Germany. Pero by that time, nag-surrender ng Nazis or Germany kasi nagpakamatay si Hitler. Now, the next
threat.
Yes, yung next na tinutukan ng US was
Japan.
And hindi pa rin sumusuko si Japan at that point. So, may mga naging meeting na parang, ano bang gagawin natin? Kasi pinipilit na sila ni Truman ni President Harry Truman. To use the bomb immediately. May deadline na binibigay sa kanila.
Yes.
Tapos may isang meeting doon na nag-list off sila ng mga pangalan. So
sobrang dark nung moment na yun dun sa meeting room na parang casually palilang ano. Exactly. So, what city? Ano sa tingin nyo? Between these 12 cities?
Tapos bigla sabi sa, wait, no, 11. Ayoko tong kasi nag-honeymoon kami ni Mrs. dyan.
Oh
parang
my God.
yung casual.
Nakaka-stomach churning nung yung pagiging nonchalant nila.
Yung casual evil. Na parang, okay, sino papatay natin ngayon? Parang, oh God.
Alam mo nga, ang isa sa mga sobrang niyang disturbing for a movie na walang gore.
Yes.
Na walang blood.
Oo.
Na walang violence na pinakita outright.
Oo.
Parang mas horrific pa siya. Mas horrifying pa siya.
Turns out that the real monsters are humans in this world. It's not any
human nature.
Supernatural thing.
Diba? Kasi, yun nga tama ka dun sa sinabi mo ng moment of explosion ng Trinity. Sometimes, as much as scientists believe that they know everything, especially in the case of Oppenheimer na theoretical physicist siya, he only dealt with theory most of his career.
Yun pa. Oo. Sobrang pointed out nun lagi.
Diba? Sobrang faced niya nung naging real na kaagad sa harapan niya. Nung explosion na yun, nung bomb. Na it suddenly became real. It was just formulas and numbers in his mind. Parang Icarus, he flew too close to the sun.
Yes. And when he finally got what he wanted out of his experiment, para siyang, okay, now what? Tapos, after nung now what na yun, yung aforementioned na yung naging meeting na sinama siya, tinatry pa rin niyang i-compartmentalize yung banality nung casual evil na i-unleash nila through the weapon that they're developing. That's
their favorite word in Los Alamos compartmentalization.
Oo.
Diba?
Tama. Lagi sinasabi, can you compartmentalize? Can you compartmentalize? Actually, yung habang nanonood nga tayo, tinanong kita parang, ano compartmentalize? Tapos sabi mo, yung i-separate nila yung kanilang working and yung personal ethics and morality nila. Okay, gets. Sige. Pero eventually, yun nga, everything catches up with him. And the fall from grace is spectacular. That's a tragedy talaga.
The rise and fall.
Through and through. So, I mean, if you do a Google search, you'll know what happened. Actually, you'll know even exactly what happened. Pero for the sake of, everybody listening here, kung hindi nyo pa napapanood, we'll just leave it at that. Kasi we want you to experience this movie fresh talaga, as much as possible. And trust us when we say na even if it's 3 hours long, it's not gonna feel like that. Especially after the atomic experiments. The real story begins towards the last hour or so of the movie.
It's still very relevant now. Kasi nga, now that we have all these weapons at our disposal, diba? This is the toll of war.
That's very true.
And sometimes people forget that. We need to be reminded of this. Diba? And also, if you are a science geek like me, siguradong who's who din. Kumbaga, sa science world, napaka star-studded. Some of the biggest names in science were there.
Actually, nakakatuwa kasi parang nakikita ko lang sila dati sa textbook.
Diba?
Tapos parang, Niels Bohr. Tapos si Ernest Lawrence. Ayos yun.
Siyempre, the big one.
Tapos, of course, Albert Einstein is there. Sino pa?
Richard Feynman. Edward Teller.
Sila Fermi. Yun. Sino tong,
Heisenberg.
Of course. Who can forget? Si Serber, si Lomanitz. Basta ang daming mga sa textbook mo lang nababasa. And seeing them alive on screen, para siyang a who's who nga, tama ka, a who's who of characters from, science in general talaga. And on that note, let's talk about the performances.
Okay.
Kasi talagang, if yung writing and directing is God tier, as in what you expect from Christopher Nolan, pati din yung acting Olympics din tong scene na to. Ibang klase talaga. And leading that is Cillian Murphy.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic in the lead role of Oppenheimer.
Finally.
Yes. Finally kasi we haven't seen yung Peaky Blinders yet. I know na siya yung bida doon.
Yeah.
Pero from what we know, na usually ang roles niya is supporting. Alam ko siya yung bida dun sa yung 28 Days Later. It's a movie I haven't seen in a long time.
Pero ako, I remember him talaga sa Red Eye. It's not a Nolan film, pero dun siya napaka-terrifying yung villain dun.
Diba? Sobrang niyang effective in supporting roles eh. He brings out the best in his co-stars. And it's fantastic na he finally gets to shine. Stage front siya. Doon sa scene na yung sobrang may quiet sadness, yung melancholy.
Tortured soul.
Yung pagiging tortured ni Oppenheimer. Hindi niya kailangang magsalita eh. Sometimes he just has to stand there and look out into the horizon.
True.
And Cillian Murphy absolutely nails it. Talaga.
Acting with his eyes.
Yun.
Micro-expressions.
With his eyes, with his yung body language niya.
Yung non-verbal niya.
Ang galing.
Sobrang compelling and sobrang deep. You know that he understands the character in a deep way.
And to add to that, na sinabi mong yung sobrang deep, yung pinaghuhugutan niya, you know that he absolutely did his homework. Hindi lang niya ginagamit yung kanyang parang acting powers. It feels like you're really watching J. Robert Oppenheimer in front of you. May mga moments nga doon na parang nawawala na siya sa utak ko na I'm watching Cillian Murphy eh. Ganun siya ka-effective talaga. Ganun siya na-immerse in the role without being method.
Yeah.
Okay, hindi siya nag Daniel Day-Lewis na there is no Cillian Murphy. There is only Oppenheimer. Hindi siya ganun eh.
Actually, you read my mind when you said Daniel Day-Lewis kasi I was about to say na napaka-comparable nung performance niya to Daniel Day-Lewis.
To how he acts usually.
He just becomes the person.
True. Very true.
Is he the next Daniel Day-Lewis?
I sure hope so na he is able to get or at least be looked at as a lead for many more mainstream projects soon.
Well, needless to say, he's gonna be nominated. He's gonna be a fixture in the award season for sure.
Talaga. And speaking of another fixture that will be for this next year's Oscar season, Robert Downey Jr. gives, ako, in my opinion A career best performance.
Yes, I agree.
Even better than Chaplin and even better than Tropic Thunder. Talaga.
Oo.
Kasi yung Tropic Thunder and Chaplin plays into his naturally, yung inborn niyang comedic talent eh. Kasi meron siyang yung natural niyang charisma eh.
Yes.
Hindi mo ma-deny na talagang sobrang niyang easygoing, sobrang niyang
charismatic.
Yun, charismatic. Sobrang, ang gaan ng loob mo sa kanya when you watch him. Ganun, hindi siya yung parang ang bigat ng performances niya. Pero dito, grabe yung iba-ibang levels, iba-ibang faces, iba-ibang facet ng isang character na pinortray niya.
Grabe yung gravitas.
Oo. By the way, just to give a bit of background, he portrays Louis Strauss. Louis Strauss was the head of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission during the time that Oppenheimer was also part of it.
He was the one who recruited Oppenheimer.
Exactly.
And that is very important. It's gonna be a very significant part of the story.
Yes, very much so. Talagang, if you thought that this was just about Oppenheimer's life and then the bomb experiments, it's just half of the story. The other half, in my opinion, the other half is actually the more important and more compelling part. Sila na ni Downey and Cillian Murphy ang nag-face-to-face on screen. Mas, yun yung sobrang electrifying na nung and to think, if I got this correctly, sobrang konti lang nung scenes na magkaharap sila. Pero when they're in front of each other, I mean, cliche siya sabihin, pero sparks fly. Absolutely.
And even when they talk about each other, dun mo makikita how their character sees the other.
Oo, talaga.
And yun nga that's the magic of Robert Downey's acting.
He just elevates the material he's given. Ganun siya kagaling na actor, no? Siguro, kaya din nagdumatak sa buong mundo yung role niya of Tony Stark. Kasi what could have been just a one-note role. Sobrang good guy, ganyan. Good guy with demons. Sige, fine. Merong opportunity to add a bit of layer.
Yeah.
Pero nagkaroon kasi nung meta element nung kanyang personal history na naidagdag niya dun sa role.
Sa Iron Man.
Oo, kay Iron Man, kay Tony Stark. Yun. So that gave him the opportunity to play Tony as basically
himself.
Oo, yun. Kaya sobrang niyang sobrang na-elevate niya yung role And ako, Endgame, 4 years ago, nagkaroon pa nga ng push na manominate siya.
As best actor.
As best actor.
For Endgame.
For Endgame, sana. I mean, the Academy will never dignify genre films.
Yes.
So, that's never gonna happen, sadly. Pero, isa siya dun sa mga few na mga actors in superhero films na talagang deserving of recognition. Talaga.
True.
Talaga. Lest we forget, Emily Blunt as Kitty Oppenheimer. J. Robert Oppenheimer's wife. Yung quiet intensity. Yung fire inside her. Kitang-kita mo dun sa, hindi na kailangan magsalita ni Emily Blunt Alam mong
just
yung
those looks on her face, no? Mayroon siyang fight in her
That's true.
Well, she was also a biologist kasi naman din. She was also an academic.
True.
She's also brilliant in her own way. And mas meron pa nga siyang fire as compared to her husband.
Oh yes, when the story, goes towards its final moments na talaga makikita mo na siya na lang yung only source of strength na meron ng asawa niya. And also, ang daming great minor performances dito. If I can single out one excellent minor performance here, that would be Josh Hartnett's Ernest Lawrence.
Oo.
Diba? Parang sobrang tagal nating hindi nakita. Although Josh Hartnett recently graced our screens for Black Mirror Season 6.
Yes, together with Aaron Paul.
Aaron Paul, that's right. Pero we haven't seen him that much in mainstream Hollywood movies as of late.
Yes.
Pero grabe yung commitment to the role. Alam kong complaint sa kanya, and especially nung sa Pearl Harbor. I wouldn't say wooden, pero sobrang niyang one note mag-act noon. Okay? I appreciated that he has grown as an actor.
Yes, significantly so.
Oo. Kitang-kita mo yung kanyang balancing act na desperately yung tinatry na i-maintain, serving science, serving the US government as a part of the Manhattan Project, and serving as Oppenheimer's friend.
And voice of reason.
And minsan siya pa nga yung parang shoulder angel na lang ni Oppie.
That keeps him in check.
Oo. And yung kanyang last moment in the movie na dapat parang mag-a-appear siya doon sa hearing. That was for Oppenheimer's security clearance. Nung dapat pupunta siya, pero nakita siya ng isang common friend nila nakasama ni Oppenheimer, tapos para siyang nakita niya na I'm not gonna kick a man when he's down. Ang gandang moment nun. Expertly played by him.
Tsaka siya yung may conviction na scientist. Siya yung pinaka nagpakita ng strong opposition to Oppenheimer, and he stood his ground. Hindi siya nagpa-manipulate or nagpa-intimidate.
Oo, yun. Siya.
Diba? He went head to head with Oppenheimer.
He took the fact na they're equals and used that to fight for his friend's soul.
And hindi rin siya naghugas kamay katulad ng ibang scientists.
Yes, also.
Na parang, I know what you're doing here, but I don't want to be part of this. I don't want my name attached to this.
Yes, that's true. Any other actors na stood out for you, maliban nun sa big three?
Well, Matt Damon, of course.
Notable Jimmy Kimmel best friend, Matt Damon. Yes. Anyway, sorry, go continue.
And actually, ang daming mga supporting characters na named eh.
Grabe no, I'm looking at the cast list right now and it's a freaking who's who. Kahit dun sa mga sobrang minor characters na. Even Gary Oldman.
Diba? Nakasingit pa
si Gary Oldman dun. As talaga lumabas siya dun tago, Gary Oldman is here.
Ang dami. Matthew Modine, Jack Quaid, sino pa?
Si Josh Peck. Diba?
Yeah.
I'm so happy na yung mga actors na we grew up with, yung mga ka-generation natin ba, they're growing up and finally getting these meaty roles. Si Josh Peck, si Jack Quaid, yung mga ganon, si David Asmalchian. Yan.
Si Polka Dot Man.
Pero dito,
grabe
siya.
Diba?
Yung kanyang, yung
range.
Yes, exactly. Anybody else?
Who else? Marami pa eh. Marami pa akong hindi na-mention. Ang daming mga TV actors doon.
Super. Sino ba tong isang sinabi mo na yung nasa The Orville?
Si Scott Grimes. Siya yung aide ni Robert Downey Jr.
Sorry, yes. You're right.
Well, I will mention one who isn't here. Michael Caine.
Ay, oo nga. Kasi sino naman kaya yung pwede mong niya? I-portray niya kaya dun. Hindi naman niya kamukha si Einstein.
And can he do accents?
I think he can naman.
I haven't seen him in any other accent.
Well. Yung kanyang Michael Caine. Yung accent lang niya. Pero siguro yun, kaya siguro nag-sit out muna siya dito. Kasi yung only old man role, hindi naman niya kamukha.
Si President.
Well, yung dalawang yun. So, si President Truman at saka si Einstein.
Yeah.
Hindi niya kamukha masyado. Pero okay lang.
And those two characters has to have a certain and specific accent.
Oo. Special note din pala to Tom Conti. Yan si Albert Einstein.
Oo.
Nakakatawa siya. Parang we've been so used to seeing Einstein as this mascot of science for so long.
Yes.
Na it feels strangely heartwarming to finally see him as a realized person.
A walking and talking human being.
Oo. Lalo na yung kanyang, the way he's portrayed. If I may say so, sila ni Einstein and Mrs. Oppenheimer, I can consider are the beating hearts of the movie.
Yes.
Silang dalawa. It actually informs the hauntedness na meron ni Oppenheimer throughout the whole movie.
We live in the consequences of their actions.
That is true.
It has become so real to me.
Oo, nakakatuwa na parang makita mong these titans that we just used to learn in textbooks, in classrooms, that they're finally alive in front of us.
And these are the people who shaped our history, our reality as we know it.
Again, based on what we've talked about so far, I'm pretty sure you can get na this is, again, an acting Olympic movie. Everybody brings their A game. Even actors na sobrang liit lang ng screen time.
True.
Diba? Everybody talagang, you can just feel that everybody absolutely loves to work with Christopher Nolan.
Yes,
If there's anyone who says na there's an actor's director, that it's him. He's one of that. He brings out the best in every actor that works with him. Talaga.
He elevates everybody in his creative process in every facet, which takes us to the technical side of the movie.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and, you know these things.
Okay lang. Sige.
Go expert.
Again, we've said this 1,000 times before. I'll say it 1,000 times after. Christopher Nolan is a god of screenwriting and directing. I cannot say that he has made a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
I am fortunate that I have seen every single one of his movies. Feature. And kahit anong scale ang ibigay mo sa kanya, talagang gagawa siya ng gourmet meal out of the variables he's given.
Yeah.
From a very bare bones, character-driven story like Memento.
Yes.
To the biggest, most bombastic blockbuster, The Dark Knight.
The Batman
trilogy. He finds a way to find art in the noise that permeates cinema. Alam mong, in the hands of a lesser director, they would play those movies very straightforward.
Yes.
Especially now that they would rely so much on CG, on visual effects, magiging crutch siya ng mga director na yon.
Yes.
Nolan finds a way to make sure that everything is real on screen kasi alam niya na kapag nakikita mong totoo yung nangyayari sa harap mo,
yes,
iba yung visceral reaction mo eh. Diba? And that also adds to him using IMAX as his medium. IMAX has been a source of controversy for a long time.
Yes,
kasi
yes.
Some people say it's gimmicky, some people say it's unnecessary, it's a cash grab. Pero I can say na Christopher Nolan is the one director who absolutely has to use IMAX every time he shoots a movie.
And you know why?
Yeah.
Because he uses his medium also as a narrative instrument.
Yes.
He uses it as part of his stylistic storytelling. Diba? Like what we've seen in Memento, the black and white and the colored scenes and the changes in aspect ratio tell something about the story that he wants to tell. Diba?
Yes. And
ano siya eh, part siya nung narrative.
Buti na touch-upan mo yung sa aspect ratio. So, for our listeners that aren't familiar with that, aspect ratio is the size of the picture you see on screen. So, madaming iba-ibang aspect ratios in cinema. Pero, when you watch this movie on an IMAX screen, yung sinasabi ni Ange kanina na yung he uses it as a narrative instrument, there are parts in this film that open up fully, as in the full IMAX screen is used. And that is signifying a specific plot line in the movie. Tapos bigla siyang babalik sa
16:9.
16:9, yung widescreen na aspect ratio. Tapos bigla siyang magiging yung IMAX na big screen ratio bigla. Just to tell you na, okay, we're in the quote-unquote present of the story. And then yung babalik na 16:9 for the quote-unquote future part of the story. Tapos pati yung pagiging black and white niya.
And colored.
Alam mo kung ano yung part nung story, kung nasaan ka na. Hindi ka mawawala eh. This movie just requires you to really pay attention.
Yes.
And that attention, that focus that you give it, the movie will reward you in spades.
Exactly.
And ang ganding kasi, yung kanyang director of photography, si Hoyt van Hoytema, he's been working with Hoyt for the past 4 movies, replacing Nolan's longtime cinematographer, Wally Pfister. But ever since Interstellar, so Interstellar, Dunkirk, and Tenet, hanggang Oppenheimer, si Hoyt van Hoytema, yung kanyang DP, parang meron silang mind link.
Meron silang shared vision.
Oo, na yung kung ano yung gustong makita ni Nolan on an IMAX screen, alam mong matik na agad kay Hoyt na, okay, ganito yung dapat na natin. Ganito yung dapat na lalabas doon sa screen. Maipipinta niya kaagad yung picture na gustong makita ni Nolan. Just by, may parang may shorthand sila na we don't usually see in cinemas except for like, let's say si Tom Cruise and si Christopher McQuarrie for the Mission Impossible movies. Na ganun ka sila ka-effective working together. And I can see why he has chosen to work with him ever since Wally Pfister semi-retired.
Yes.
Way back.
That's true.
Also, I just want to point out yung music.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the music of Ludwig Göransson. Also replacing
Hans Zimmer.
Long-time collaborator Hans Zimmer.
I actually noticed it. Nawala yung signature buwa ng mga movies ni Nolan.
Kasi pag sinabi mong Nolan, tapos may music ni Hans Zimmer, it has gotten to a point where it's a bit memified na.
Ano ba yan, Gong?
parang, hindi, horns.
Parang
Oo, parang ganun. Parang siyang horn section ng orchestra.
Oo, sa Inception yun, pinakamadalas.
Doon siya pinaka naging meme, yung Inception na gamit niya. Pero ang dami din naman kasi nila naging effective na mga collaborations ni Zimmer. Yung iconic na Batman theme. Ng Dark Knight trilogy. Yan. I mean, of course, with all due respect to Danny Elfman and his Batman theme, I can say na mas maganda yung Batman theme ni Hans Zimmer talaga. Mas bagay dun sa Batman na ginawa nila.
It really sets the tone.
Exactly. And I'm happy to say Göransson takes on the mantle of being Nolan's go-to composer seamlessly.
Yes.
Pero hindi din naman siya nagre-resort ng paggaya doon sa style na ginagawa ni Zimmer dati.
Actually, it's very different.
Exactly. Although meron silang similarities kasi ang trademark ng isang Nolan film in terms of music is tuloy-tuloy siya as in walang tigil yung tugtog.
Oo nga.
Tugtog. Puro tugtog.
You know what? I felt like there was live orchestra playing.
Yes.
Kasi there were lots of just talking. Wala masyadong action, wala masyadong set piece na mga ganon. So it's a lot of discussions, people talking, discussing, meetings and all. Pero yung different music tapos yung nag-morph siya into sound effects and yung editing nun na seamless. Talagang kaya nga hindi disjointed yung buong 3 hours na yun eh. It was like flowing. It was because of the music. Parang the music carries you through the story with continuity, I guess.
And hindi lang siya yung propulsive na score just so parang may pakiramdam ka na laging umaandar yung kwento. Yun nga tama yung sinabi mo na meron siyang parts na sobrang tahimik lang niya. Sobrang contemplative nung tugtog. Sobrang introspective.
Yes, true.
Pero kapag darating tayo sa punto na the action on screen picks up, talagang sinasabayan siya ng tugtog. And even yung point nung finality, yung parang conclusion ng Trinity test, I love na that moment, wala masyadong tugtog. Nagkaroon ng moment to breathe.
Yes.
Yung sheer scale nung na-accomplish nila.
Oo, yung moment na biglang nag-flash yung light, tapos biglang nawala lahat ng sound, complete silence. Tapos yung parang shockwave nun pagkatapos. Grabe yun. Yun yung pinaka-horrifying scene para sa akin.
Yes.
And we did not even see the actual explosion na sobrang extravaganza. You just saw their faces.
Meron palang moment doon, masabi ko lang, natatawa ako. Kasi bago magkaroon ng explosion, pinapasahan sila ng sunscreen for yung protection against the UV rays of the atomic explosion. Tapos, pinakita si Teller. Si Teller, naglalagay ng sunscreen sa mukha niya. Tapos, katabi niyang sa kotse, sa loob ng kotse, si Richard Feynman. Tapos inaabutan siya ni Teller ng sunscreen. Sabi ni Feynman, no thanks, the glass will protect me from UV. Sabi ni Teller, what's gonna protect you from the glass? Yung gano'n na, sorry, masabi ko lang yung writing niya. It's not all dour. Okay? There are moments of levity. Meron siyang mga expertly placed pressure release points Lalo na kapag sobra ng you're gripping the armrests of your theater seat. May mga moment na biglang mapapahinga ka naman ng konti. Hinga ka muna ng konti. Tapos saka bigla niyang ila-ramp up yung tension ulit.
Pero hindi niya tinitake away yung gravity ng situation.
True. That's true.
It doesn't even try to parang give levity just because.
Just for levity's sake. That's true. Hindi siya quippy. Yan. Oh my God. Just going back to what you were saying about the sound. Okay, his go-to sound designer, Richard King, is still the one making the sound design and the sound editing for him. They've been working since The Prestige hanggang ngayon.
Oh my God, The Prestige. Another masterpiece.
True. And actually, we have to touch upon sound for a Christopher Nolan movie. And why don't you go ahead and tell us more about why it's an important thing to talk about for sound?
Yeah, actually, for me, his last movie, Tenet, the reason why it's not at my top 3 of Nolan films is because of the sound editing. Kasi when we watched it at home, diba? It was released during the pandemic.
Yes.
Was it re-released in the theaters?
Unfortunately, no.
Ayun. So, we only saw it at home. Tapos, yung dialogue niya, sobrang na-overpower nung music or nung background music.
And even yung sound design din.
it was, hindi siya balanced. Kaya medyo, especially nakamask sila.
Yun pa.
Sobrang muffled na nung dialogue nila.
Ano siya, shades of even Bane from Dark Knight Rises din pa.
Oo, doon. Only for every character. Well, apart from the very, very complicated story, hindi mo pa maintindihan yung dialogue and yung mga exposition nila. It's very hard to follow. So, I think sound editing is very, very important for you to understand and really appreciate the story and immerse you in that world. Especially that was sci-fi. So, yun yung ko sa Tenet na I have seen na sobrang in-improve this time dito sa Oppenheimer.
Yes.
They really put a lot of attention onto dialogue clarity.
Na they took that criticism to heart and made sure na the next movie that they released, yung team nila absolutely corrected that. I wouldn't say mistake. Kasi on my part naman, for my opinion, I took that as by design. Intentional yung sobrang disorienting nung sound. Kasi nga, it's about a movie, about time going backwards and forwards, sometimes at the same time.
Yes.
So, it's supposed to be disorienting talaga. Pero I can also see where you're coming from as a cinephile na one of the most important aspects of cinema is sound.
Yes.
Of course, you have to hear what they're saying. You have to hear the music and the sound design, the sound effects, essentially. So,
actually, if it's not a Nolan movie, I really prefer watching movies in Dolby Atmos.
Yes, that's
Kasi
true.
Sound is very important to me. Kasi it immerses you in that world, di ba? It takes you in there. Kapag significant lang talaga yung IMAX dun sa movie experience, that's when I watch movies in IMAX.
Yes, that's true. Masabi ko lang sandali, mabilis lang, yung importance ng sound design. Recently, yung isang fantastic na sound design movie na pinanood natin was John Wick Chapter 4.
Oo.
Grabe yung suntok, grabe yung putok ng bala, grabe yung hits ng kotse, yung mga pagbagsak niya sa semento.
Oo.
Ramdam mo yung, see, exactly, it brings you into the movie. Excellent sound design can transport you there. Can make you feel like you're the one in the middle of the action.
Yes, that's very true.
We're very happy, not just me, we're very happy na he finally, Nolan and his company, finally corrected that big criticism from Tenet. And it paid off in spades talaga. The sound was galing.
Alam mo, meron akong isang naaalala na scene doon na nung in-announce niya yung victory nung testing nung Trinity. Tapos yung nagsustomp lahat ng mga scientists doon sa bleachers. Tapos parang that kind of parang sound din siya ng explosion. Continued explosion.
Yung parang yung aftershock.
Yung
explosion
niya, di ba? Tapos, alam mo yung nadidisorient siya, sobrang jarring, na yung sound na naririnig niya, nagmamuffle unti-unti. Tapos, parang in the middle of the cheers, meron kang maririnig na biglang isang scream.
Yon. Yes.
Sobrang tumayo yung balahibo ko doon.
Ako din, no. Grabe yun.
Diba?
Ang galing niya.
Na parang in the middle of 1,000 cheers, one scream yung nag-stand out na. And then nagkakaroon na siya ng visions na some people cheering and then suddenly they were crying. Grabe yun.
Talagang great technical achievements in the service of story.
And great use of the sound editing.
Talaga. Speaking of editing, even the film editing itself was talagang, I'm sorry if we can't stop gushing about this movie. Kasi talagang everybody was in their A-game. Everyone brought their A-game. Editor Jennifer Lame, yung editing niya was anything but lame. Sorry, I had to.
Okay, it was right there.
Yung kanyang way of making sure na yung every intersecting storyline didn't feel disconnected. She knew when to cut the next frame na kept the narrative cohesion going. She also knew when to make sure na two seemingly separate plot lines
and the timelines
converged, at the timelines especially, the two separate timelines converged in a very beautiful way, especially towards the end. Ang galing nung, ang galing nang talaga. Ako, ito, and this is not me, I hope I'm not pandering when I say this, pero, there are movies na maganda, edited by men, pero I'm of the belief na the greatest editors, film editors of all time are women, talaga. Kasi, ako, I can say na yung Star Wars, That was edited by George Lucas's ex-wife, Marcia Lucas, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yan. This was done by Jennifer Lame. And if I'm not mistaken as well, for Martin Scorsese, okay, his go-to editor is Thelma Schoonmaker. So I just mentioned 3 of my most favorite directors of all time.
Yeah, true.
Scorsese, Lucas, and Nolan. What do they have in common? Their greatest films are edited by women.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that.
Pero ikaw, why do you think?
Well, I'm also the editor of this podcast.
See, exactly, di ba? You're the editor of this podcast and that's the reason why.
So, thanks, I guess.
Sobrang yung flow nung podcast is amazing. Pero ikaw,
I would hope.
So, hindi naman lahat praise. Meron ding, actually, may isang bagay lang tayong nag-agree on na we not really didn't like. We absolutely understood why they had to do that. Why Christopher Nolan chose to do this. Pero
ako kasi, it's not that I didn't like it, pero it was kind of jarring to see the explicit nudity dun sa mga sex scenes. But this is R16 naman. So, yeah. Pero it felt out of place. Especially following Nolan's filmography. This is the first time I've seen this in any of his movies. Pero I understand that it's, it has to do with characterization.
I agree with you completely. It felt out of place. And, well, just judging naman kasi from the previous times na Nolan has dealt with the concept of sex, doesn't like to linger on it. Pwede din naman siguro na parang kaya din siya ganun naging uncomfortable eh. I think an argument can be made for the reason of that sequence being very uncomfortable. Kasi it still speaks to him, wanting to avoid parang talking about it. Pero it's an important part of Oppenheimer's life. So he just shows it in the most uncomfortable way possible.
But it's supposed to be uncomfortable and it's supposed to be shameful.
Exactly. Yan. Tama. Hindi niya gino-glorify.
Hindi.
Yun, oo. Wala siyang male gaze.
Hindi siya na-romanticize.
Hindi siya romanticized, oo. It's talagang ikaw mahihiya ka para kay Oppenheimer when that part shows up. Talaga. So, you'll know it. Yes, you'll know it when you see it. Any final thoughts for Oppenheimer before we move on to our next film?
So, yun nga, yung mga pinaka-take-away ko, like Uncle Ben used to say, with great power comes great responsibility. And that is true. It's really true. Especially in this case. And also, where do you draw the line in your pursuit of knowledge?
Yes.
Can you really compartmentalize morality?
That's right. Can you use knowledge or genius as an excuse for playing God or having an unchecked ego?
Or is genius a blessing or a curse?
Now, hindi naman natin sinasabi na parang yung, pursuit of knowledge is wrong. Hindi. Pero if you use the pursuit of knowledge to further any malintent, maybe you should take time to ask yourself the hard questions. Are you pursuing knowledge for the right reasons?
How much power should be given to humans?
Yes.
Kasi with little or a lot of power they have, they'll use that to destroy each other.
That is the unfortunate truth. Yes. So, on that note...
Yeah, feel free to answer all that questions. Yes. Very existential.
Sobrang niyang existential. Pero yun na nga, we heartily recommend this movie. 5 stars out of 5.
Yes.
Talaga. If you are able to watch it in an IMAX screen, please seek out the nearest IMAX screen. It's worth it. Every second of it is worth it. Talaga.
Sobrang sulit. And after that, actually, it's very advisable to watch Barbie because you really need to decompress. After that, you'll question your reality and your existence as a human being.
Which brings us to our next film in this double feature. Again, the aforementioned Barbie by Greta Gerwig. So just a short synopsis of it. The movie finds Barbie's charmed existence is thrown into disarray when weird stuff starts happening around her. Bagay niya hindi niya ma-explain. As such, she begins a quest of self-discovery that may or may not have big consequences for her world and the real world.
Yes.
Also, Ken is there. He's just Ken. So, why don't you start us off with the things that you love about this movie?
Well, to start off, I wanna discuss first the story of Barbie, written by Noah Baumbach.
And Greta Gerwig.
The way they portrayed Barbie, especially sa first act, was the perfect Barbie, the stereotypical Barbie. And that is Margot Robbie. Perfect casting because she's a real-life Barbie, diba? Very glaring yung fact na merong inequality, but Barbie holds all the power over Ken.
Yeah, I agree. Oo. Meron gano'n na parang yung mga Barbie, syempre Barbie land eh. Tapos, yung mga Barbies, may mga positions. May Dr. Barbie, may President Barbie. Tapos, meron yung mga physicist Barbie. Ganon. Pero yung mga Ken, andun lang sila.
Parang Barbie Land for me is like the perfect depiction of matriarch fantasy. So, it's very female-centered. Even the Supreme Court, all Barbie. Physicist Barbie, the president is Barbie. Everybody's Barbie. Tapos, Ken is just their accessory, so to speak. Parang for me, ang impression sa akin nun was like, is this the flip side of patriarchy of the real world? They don't respect the Kens. Even our Ken, si Ryan Gosling, parang the highlight of his day is just for Barbie to notice him.
Oo, napaka-sad nun. Napaka-sad nung part na yung parang siyang, hey Barbie. Kasi, hi Ken. Tapos yung, can I stay over at your house later, Barbie? Kaya si Barbie naman parang,
okay.
So, si Ken naman parang, wow, great.
Oo.
Parang, ang galing nung pagkaka-portray niya nung, ako in my opinion yung flip side nung perception na parang what the patriarchy thinks of how women view them. Kasi parang, and ito, I'm not generalizing, okay? I hope that I'm not speaking for any male or male-identifying member of our audience, of course. But it's been a fact na for the longest time, men have viewed women as accessories. Na parang pang ano lang nila, pang dagdag ng kanilang male standing. Ganon.
Trophy, diba?
Trophies, exactly. Na there are men who think that women exist just for their pleasure. Na yung walang ginagawa yung babae, kundi antayin lang sila sa bahay buong araw. And they think na highlight na nung araw ng mga babae na mapansin sila nung guy. Yan.
As I mentioned earlier, para siyang flip side.
Yes, exactly.
Nung real world.
Eventually, the movie reveals na after things start going wrong, Barbie talks to Weird Barbie, portrayed by
Kate McKinnon,
one of the standouts of the movie. Weird Barbie tells, let's call her stereotypical Barbie kasi yun naman yung ano niya eh. Yun yung parang name niya quote-unquote kay ni Margot Robbie. So stereotypical Barbie talks to Weird Barbie and Weird Barbie tells her about yung human to Barbie link. Na kung paano siya pinaglalaroan ng kanyang human child.
Yes.
That affects her existence in Barbie Land. Yan.
Her thoughts, her dreams, her emotions.
Yes, exactly. Yan. Ngayon, yun makikita na yung parang paano siya na nagdi-disconnect ba doon sa fantasy of Barbie Land. And eventually she goes off to the real world alongside Ken na salingkit na naman niya. Kasi talagang yung pagkaka-portray ni Ken dito excellently played by Ryan Gosling.
Sa himbo.
Talagang sobrang himbo niya.
Or male bimbo.
Yung kanyang, ang tawag nila Kenergy. Yan. Meron siyang Kenergy na i-imbue doon sa character ni Ken. Na parang kitang-kita mo yung longing niya eh. To be recognized as a fully formed being and not just a small part of
an
Barbie's
afterthought.
day. Oo, tama. And going back to what you said then, na it plays excellently into the inversion of what's happening in real life.
Which he realized when they got to the real world.
Yan. Exactly. So they get to the real world and eventually Ken finds out about the patriarchy, the concept of patriarchy.
Well, morphed.
And
comical.
Toxic patriarchy.
Yes.
That's the right term. Eventually, he gets into the concept of toxic patriarchy. Tapos yung everything wrong about being a man, in my opinion okay, yun yung parang
pick
up niya na ano ba ang dapat na parang pagiging guy. Dapat tayo, domineering tayo ang boss, parang ganun.
Bring me beer.
Bring me beer, babe. Parang, ang sad lang kasi there are, in real life, I would think that there are people who are as emotionally fragile as the character that was portrayed, ni Ken, na nag-gravitate sila to an ideology instead of it making them a better person. Para siyang na-exaggerate pa yung worst impulses nila. Yung ganon. Kaya I appreciated it that the movie, although kulang, in my opinion, and we'll get to that later on.
Yes.
Medyo kulang yung pagkaka-resolve ng kwento ni Ken.
Especially dun sa concept niya ng patriarchy.
Oo.
And yung concept of his identity.
Do you think the movie addressed that sige, let's go over to the concept of women empowerment. Okay? Kasi yun yung pinaka
message nitong
movie.
Yeah.
Okay? Do you think that the movie itself, in spite of this flaw na we addressed ngayon, was it satisfying or was it to your liking? Satisfactory ba siya? And how it displayed the concept of women empowerment for you?
Ako personally, I'm for equality.
Okay.
I just want to be treated as an equal.
Okay.
Not to be ahead or to hold all the power.
Okay. So you're not necessarily
I'm not satisfied na hindi siya naging equal.
You're not necessarily saying na mali yung yung parang the women hold all the power. Pero it's more na true equality talaga ang mas better alternative. Am I getting that right?
Oo. And that is the fantasy. And I wish the movie just focused on the relationship mother and daughter. Na dahil inintroduce nila yung character ni America Ferrera tsaka yung daughter niya.
Yes.
And also, if you look at the history of Barbie, Ruth Handler, the inventor of Barbie or the creator of Barbie, created the doll after her daughter.
Yes.
Even named her after her daughter. Barbara. Diba? Barbara Millicent Roberts is the real name of Barbie. And Barbara Handler is Ruth Handler's daughter. So, that's a mother's way of connecting to her daughter. It's about that mother and daughter relationship. And sana doon na lang siya nag-focus. Kasi nga, like what the movie addressed, yung ideals na hinold ni Barbie when she was created was morphed na over generations. Niresent na si Barbie, na-sexualize si Barbie, naging false beauty standards si Barbie, and then na-accused na siya of being a fascist, another capitalist company and brand. So yon, medyo it just veered away from all the things that it originally represented.
Yes. Okay. So if I'm getting this correctly, you thought that the storyline that handled, yung feminism and what is real feminism, it could have been better.
Yes. Could have been improved.
Yes, could have been better, and you wish na it focused on how Barbie is parang like this gift from a mother to a daughter.
Yes, that's
yung
it.
Ganon. And actually, ang ganda nga kasi towards the end, spoilers again, towards the end, we see, not the original, actually there was a cameo of the original Ruth Handler. Yes, that was a very sweet moment. Ang ganda
yes,
natutuwa ako dun. Pero yung si Ruth Handler was actually portrayed by another actress.
Yes.
Rhea Perlman, the wife of Danny DeVito. So she portrayed Ruth Handler.
Yes.
In a very meta moment for the movie. Yan. Actually, ang sobrang nga niyang meta kasi sasabi na nagpunta si Barbie sa Mattel.
Yeah.
Tapos
it went Lego movie.
Yon, it didn't go as far as Lego movie could have went. Pero I thought it went as best as it could. Without parang overstretching the concept.
And still, it's Mr. Business.
Oo. Ayun. Si Lord Business pa rin pala.
Si Lord Business pala.
Pero eventually, nalaman mo naman sa Lego movie na hindi naman siya kalaban.
Actually, napaka-necessary niya nga eh.
You think so? Si Will Ferrell.
Bakit pa siya sumunod?
Well, that's true.
What was the point of his character?
It's Will Ferrell.
Oo nga, pero what's the point?
It's Will Ferrell.
I failed to see the point. Where's the point?
Well, I perceived it as parang a commentary on how, kasi and there's also a moment in the movie din naman that addressed it. Yung nakadating na si Barbie sa Mattel and then na-meet niya yung board including the CEO, Mr. CEO. So tinanong ni Barbie na parang, where's the women in charge? Tapos sabi ni Will Ferrell na parang, we had a CEO.
Women.
We love women. We had a CEO in the 90s and
another one
before that. So look, we have 2 women in the past. So we love women.
And I'm a son of a woman. I'm a brother of a woman.
I'm a son of a woman. And I am the nephew of a woman aunt. What? I guess primarily he's just there for comic relief. I mean, you can't dispute that. Pero yun na nga I think he was also there to lampoon the idea of the stupidity.
Men running the feminist narrative.
That's it. Exactly. Yun. So it's just lampooning it to pieces.
Pero yun nga
Ako ang pinaka na takeaway ko na nagustuhan ko dito is gusto ko yung yung ang dami niya mga callback sa classic cinema.
And pop culture references.
And, galore talaga. And many cameos na pag nakita mo magugulat ka din.
Just like in Oppenheimer, it's a who's who.
Sobrang niyang huso. Kaso nakakatawa naman dito, ang daming mga cameo na medyo nasayang. Na I'll get to that in a moment, pero just going over yung references to classic cinema na natuwa ako. Yung opening niya na yung parang 2001 Space Odyssey, na opening ng sine. Natuwa ako doon. Tapos yung merong song number sila Ken, yung mga Ken towards the end.
Song and dance
that evokes Grease. Yung parang yung song number nila John Travolta doon.
Very Grease.
Very Grease. Love it na this movie, you know that it's not the primary purpose of the movie, pero I appreciate that it's introducing these tidbits of classic cinema to the younger generation. Diba?
Well, you also have to recognize the pedigree of the creators of this movie.
Talaga.
Even the cinematographer and the frequent collaborators din sila ni
Okay. Rodrigo Prieto. Oh, yes. Siya? Siya yung cinematographer siya ni Scorsese.
See?
Wolf of Wall Street, Silence, Irishman, and the upcoming Killers of the Flower Moon.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yung creative pedigree niya on and off the screen.
And actually, din siya ni Iñárritu. Yan, yun pa. So,
and Greta Gerwig, twice nominated.
I think so.
Academy Award for Best Screenplay, nominated for Best Director. Silang dalawa ni Noah Baumbach. It's also a husband and wife production, just like in Oppenheimer.
Well, touching upon that, yung wife ni Nolan is his longtime producer. Yan. So yun nga again, the concept of yung having shorthand or in other words, parang meron kang ka-team sa production mo na gamay na yung creative impulses mo.
Kumbaga sa music scene, kung familiar ka sa music terminologies, kamado mo na.
Yes, exactly. Very, very true. Yan. So, it's a fun movie, albeit hindi siya actually pambata.
Marami nga siyang elements sa pambata, especially kapag sinoshow yung mga toys. Yung everyday life ni Barbie, actually nakakatuwa kasi as in yung mga furniture niya, yung mga pagkain niya, talagang parang kang nilalaro talaga ng Barbie na walang laman yung mga baso.
Pero don't you think na that moment itself and every moment that happens in Barbieland is like a representation of how Barbies were played by the people in our generation. Na parang ganun maglaro ng Barbie. Tapos pati yung sobrang predilection for the collector's items of Barbie. Kasi may moment din doon na yung naglalayas ba si Ken ba yun?
Yung naghahagis siya ng damit.
Tapos, tuwing hahagis yung damit in the air, titigil yung damit sandali. Tapos, yung actual logo nung mga accessories na yun as they were released in the past appear on screen.
Para siyang callback dun sa mga old Barbie commercials sa TV.
Yun, exactly. Para siyang ganon. So, yung sa akin nga, parang kaya ko nasabi na parang hindi siya pang bata. Kasi yes, children, if kids still play with Barbies nowadays.
Or if they still watch TV. At all.
Ang mas makakagets ng references to Barbie and her history are millennials and older. Yung mga talagang lumaki sa Barbie talaga. Yung si nando doon? Si Skipper, si Midge, tsaka si Alan. Yung ba? Tapos ito pa yung isang yung si Sugar Daddy Ken. At saka si Earrings Ken. I'll let you know later kung bakit. Pag-usapan natin mamaya kung bakit discontinue siya. You're gonna flip when you find out why. Pero yung mga ganon, na mga sobrang obscure references to Barbie's history talaga. If you don't like Barbie pero you have a passing knowledge of Barbie, you're gonna have fun with this if not for the playfulness and the meta element of the movie. Kasi nilalampun din niya yung brand ni Barbie. Hindi lang naman siya maging parang sobrang feminist manifesto. In my opinion, I hope na I don't speak for you or any women.
Yes.
It comes to that concept. Pero it also addresses how feminism has already been so warped.
And so parang commercialized.
Oo. At saka yung concept na parang what is true feminism nowadays? May speech si America Ferrera who portrays the mother of the daughter, the human
grabe
mother-daughter.
Yun. That hit me hard.
Yun. Merong siyang naging speech doon that basically outlines the complexities and paradoxes of being a woman in the world. And yes, nakita nga kita na you got a bit emotional seeing that speech.
Yes, I did.
Pero ako, narratively speaking, okay, I don't hope to speak na an expert in feminism or in women, of course not. Pero it felt narratively satisfying in terms of the script. Yung naging ending nung parang addressing nila nung ganong concept in the movie.
Yes. I was happy naman how Barbie's story ended na she chose to find her identity, her essence, kumbaga. Na she chose to search for the answer to the question, what was she made for?
Okay.
And not be dictated by her creator and the company that made her. And everything in Barbie Land.
Yes.
Na nagsasabi na yes, she has the power to be all these possibilities. Pero it's still her choice. She chooses her path and she finds what she wants. Ganon. Kasi ang daming dinidictate ng society. So it's up to us women to define it and to claim our narrative, kumbaga. Just like what Barbie did.
Yes.
Na even though she's in feminist utopia, she chose to create her own path and to find what she wants.
Yes.
To find what she likes. To choose who she wants to be. And to choose what she exists for.
I had fun.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to say I didn't have fun. Pero I also would say then na I know na it's not the emotional element of this movie is not supposed to hit me hard.
Yes.
Pero on that note, I would just like to parang point out lang na medyo nalungkot naman ako kung saan nila iniwan yung character ni Ken.
Ako din, actually.
Yun. Kasi for the movie to preach about Barbie finding her own thing.
Girl power.
It's sad na they just left Ken in a state of parang natanggal lang yung tether nilang dalawa. To each other. Kasi sinabi ni Barbie na she doesn't want Ken to be her boyfriend. Ayaw niya magkaroon ng relationship, basically.
And she's not in love with Ken.
And she's not in love with that Ken. Yan, to be clear. Hindi siya in love dun kay Ken. Ngayon, i-relate ko siya sa parang personal experience ko as a guy. Kasi, forgive me if I may parang open the curtains a bit. Peek behind the curtain ba? Nung mas bata-bata pa tayo, okay? Many moons ago, nakarelate din ako dun sa idea ng parang yung buong pagkatao mo nakasalalay sa isang other person. Yung toxicity of that kind of relationship. Okay? So that was way before you. Clarify ko lang sa mga nakikinig natin, baka mamaya isipin nilang may something na. Hindi si Ange to, okay? Hindi si Ange to.
Sige.
Yung
go with your disclaimers.
Yung old way of thinking na wala ka kapag wala yung partner mo. Sobrang relatable nung struggle ni Ken. Trying to find something to fill that void in his heart, whether it be him finding out who he really is, him finding a hobby or other reason for living. I would think that that's a struggle that every guy or any individual who has identified in the masculine manner, they've struggled with that. Yung, how do I become...
What's your purpose?
What's my purpose for living? Kasi ang...
Purpose, cousin?
Stray Bear reference.
Yeah, purpose!
Yung, ano ba yung papel mo sa mundo? Kasi for guys, in the old way of thinking, sinasabi nila na yung the guy is supposed to be the provider, the protector, yung everything else, etc. Ngayon, nagiging change in our society is the women are equally as capable, if not more capable in some cases. How does a man or how do individuals who identify masculinely, how do they deal with that existential crisis as well? So yun lang. Medyo nalungkot lang ako na sobrang parang perfunctory lang nung ending ni Ken. Pero it didn't leave me very hopeful for the future of his character. Of course, you don't think about yung ano yung magiging future ng isang movie character. Pero yung...
You know how I would have wanted it to end?
Sige.
Dalawa silang nagpunta sa
Sarili
world.
Doing
sa
their own thing.
And finding their path. Finding themselves. Nag-self-discovery journey sila. Discover what they were made for.
Exactly.
In their own terms.
I agree. I totally agree on that.
Seeing how Ken was the one who struggled more dun sa identity crisis na yun.
Oo. Mas nag-hit hardest yung parang who am I na question sa kanya. Much more so from stereotypical Barbie's perspective.
Consolation prize lang na parang it's Barbie and it's Ken.
Yes,
it's not true. Barbie and Ken.
Yun lang.
I think Ken deserves more.
Improved. Yes. Yes, Ken deserved more.
So, final thoughts. I really loved the movie. It was so much fun. And the toys were so nostalgic. The pop culture references were just right.
Yes.
It worked. And nandun pa rin yung kiddie film element niya to it. Pambata pa din siya.
Mostly.
But
you're gonna have a very difficult conversation with your kids when you get home. Especially yung existential stuff.
Yeah.
Be prepared for that, parents. Yun. For me naman, it's also a recommendation. It's a fun movie as well. Like what we said before we began the Barbie part of this episode, it's a perfect decompressor.
And companion piece of Oppenheimer. Kasi yung common thread nila was existentialism.
Yes, that's true. Na parang what is my existence for? Diba? Whereas Oppenheimer answered that question na my existence is to show off my genius. Yun yung sagot niya.
And to deal with the consequences of that.
And how do I deal with the consequences of that? Ang tanong naman dito sa sagot naman dito sa Barbie is, what is my existence for?
What am I made for?
It's for me to find out. Yan. So, siya? Alam natin na it was initially just a marketing ploy to have, yung hashtag Barbenheimer together.
Yes.
Pero I was pleasantly surprised to know na it was more related than it led us to think.
True.
And yun nga, it's a perfect parang movie to watch after how heavy Oppenheimer was.
Yes.
Pagkatapos nung sobrang dour, sobrang you hate the world and where it's going after Oppenheimer. Ito parang, okay, it makes you slightly hopeful for the world.
Yes.
If we were just as understanding as the movie hopes all of us to be.
True.
Yeah. So on that note, we end our review part of this episode. Again, we recommend that you go out and view these excellent movies. Hopefully, one after the other. Mag-double feature din kayo.
Yes,
Trust us, it's worth it.
Sobrang it was fun.
It was so much fun. Hindi nga natin masyado napag-usapan yung experience natin na first time natin ginawa na mag-double feature
in one day.
Na usually we watch movies, siguro we give it like a day or two to breathe, the first and then the second, ganyan.
Yes.
Pero of course, we stan Barbenheimer.
There's a first for everything.
Yes. We recommend that you give it a try if you haven't. Now, we would like to just announce as well yung naging winner ng ating contest from last week. We are also actually considering lang din yung nag-comment doon sa episodes natin through Spotify.
Yes.
So, without any further ado, we announce that the winner of the Mission Impossible poster contest is...
Limited edition poster.
Actually, posters.
Posters. Oo, dalawa.
Posters is Jan Gilbert Bradza.
Yay! Congratulations! And thank you for listening.
Thank you for joining the Cine Geeks conversation. So, Jan, if you're listening to us, just send us a message on Facebook to the Cine Geeks podcast page so that we can get your delivery information so we can ship this out to you. Don't worry, kami na rin sasagot ng pag-ship out. Again, Jan, congratulations to you.
Yes.
So, maliban dyan, is there anything else you'd want to about? Any final thoughts for today?
Well, The Bear Season 2 is out.
Yes, it just came out yesterday as of time of recording. So, it's the 20th today.
Same day as Barbenheimer.
Yes, the second season of The Bear is already streaming all episodes
on Disney Plus.
And we will be talking about that next week. That's the next episode of the Cinegeeks podcast. So, for my lovely co-host, Angela.
Yo.
Okay, this has been Roy. And we would like to once again thank you for listening to the Cinegeeks podcast, where movies, TV, and all things geek collide.